3Bpm.
Why is it that Republicans and President Trump are unwilling to do the jobs they were elected to do and reach an agreement to fund the military, critical programs for the middle class, address DACA, fund children's health, and take care of disaster aid?
Scientists at the Institute of Neuroscience in Shanghai created the first cloned monkeys using a technique called somatic cell nuclear transfer.
Gold medalist Aly Raisman says she'll be enthusiastically cheering on Team USA at the opening ceremonies tomorrow, but she also says the officials at the U.S. Olympic Committee have betrayed the athletes.
I was abused at the Olympics. Larry Nassar was the Olympic doctor. They are very, very much responsible for this.
No leader should stay beyond the time determined by the people they serve. I have therefore come to the decision to resign as President of the Republic with immediate effect. I will continue to serve the people of South Africa.
Don't forget, John is great, and she is a great gentleman. He's now president for life. No, it's great. I know people say, look, I think it's great. Maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday.
Russia has been hit by sanctions and is in standoff with the West over issues like the poisoning of a Russian ex-spy in the UK and Russia's backing of Syria's president. Facing international isolation, Putin's promising to improve the domestic situation.
Right, the world's last surviving male northern white rhino has died.
57-year-old Miguel Diaz-Canel has been chosen to replace Raul Castro as president. For the first time in almost 60 years, the head of state will not be a member of the Castro family.
Macedonia changed its name. It's now going to be Northern Macedonia. Swaziland changed to, East Swatini.
The United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
We have heard that despite its promises, North Korea might still be producing nuclear weapons, and now they're planning another meeting. Donald Trump.
It's the United Nations watchdog on human rights, and the U.S. wants no part of it.
Women can finally take to the roads. For Saudi Arabia, this is huge.
The U.S. officially slammed China with new tariffs on Monday. They cover $200 billion worth of Chinese exports, things like electronics and furniture. For now, it's a 10% tax, but that's going to jump to 25% by the end of the year.
And China is not taking it lightly. Just after the U.S. imposed their tariffs, Beijing retaliated with tax on $60 billion of U.S. goods to the tune of 5 to 10%.
The Ethiopian Prime Minister and Eritrean President embrace warmly at a state dinner in the Eritrean capital. It's the first time in 20 years the two countries have had diplomatic relations. They say it's time to turn the page on decades of tension and war.
The fate of 12 young footballers and their coach has gripped the nation, as rescuers are still struggling to find them or even locate where they might be inside the massive cave complex.
The European Union and Japan have signed one of history's biggest ever free trade deals.
Scientists at the Italian Space Agency announced that they have located an underground lake on Mars, the first stable body of liquid ever found on the red planet.
Facebook had the largest one-day drop in Wall Street history, losing more than $120 billion in market value.
Health officials are warning the latest outbreak of Ebola in Central Africa is a, quote, game changer.
Apple just hit $1 trillion in market value.
India's Supreme Court has just struck down a ban on gay sex that goes back to the colonial era.
The death toll soaring in Indonesia after a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake triggered a tsunami.
Saudi Arabia confirms that the journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead.
The United Nations Climate Panel warns humanity has only a dozen years to mitigate climate change or face global catastrophe.
So Canada, officially the second country in the world to legalize recreational marijuana.
China has just built a ginormous bridge connecting the Chinese mainland with Hong Kong and Macau.
Brazil's new president has formally taken office. Jair Bolsonaro is a former soldier and he was sworn in today. Described by some as a far-right candidate, he rose to power on an anti-corruption and pro-gun agenda, something similar to the strategy we saw from President Trump.
Basically, the whole town's on fire right now.
The Russian Navy fired on 3 Ukrainian ships it said had entered its waters off Crimea.
He Jiankui says he helped create the world's first genetically edited babies. He claims they're resistant to HIV. Not that he's released any data to prove it. His announcement came with a slick YouTube video, not a journal where other scientists could check his work.
The Gilets Jaunes, or Yellow Vest movement, started last month, when working-class people from the countryside rose up in response to a fuel tax increase. President Emmanuel Macron announced to repeal the tax. But it's too late. The protests have already morphed into a broader rebellion, now taking aim at him.
Victim identification has started after tsunami struck the Indonesian islands of Java and Sumatra, killing at least 222 people and injuring 843 others.
thousands of residents were forced to evacuate to higher ground when the tsunami struck. Some 28 people are still missing.
3 BPM.